Alrighty, so this is my first solo race companion that I'm doing. Normally, I'm asking people questions about the race that we did together. This is gonna be one I'm doing on my own because I did it on my own. So yesterday I did a 100 kilometer run. 62.2 miles is what it ended up being. First time at that distance, the longest run I've ever done. So going into as far as like how prepared I was and my prep for the race, not very great. The week before I did a marathon, so I'm a week out from doing a marathon, and I'm not sure how long it takes to recover from a marathon. I mean, I've been doing quite a few now, say around 6 this year. It's usually a couple weeks until my speed's back. So I'm a week out from a marathon. My legs, I basically took a pretty easy week. I had a taper week leading into the marathon and a taper week after the marathon, for the most part. So I mean, I wasn't in the best place, I'm sure, but I wasn't in a bad spot. Um, I decided to. I've been doing most of my races. I've been more keto, low carb, trying to get my body low carbs, trying to get my body to run on protein more. This race, I was thinking I decided to carb load the night before, actually, thinking that the sheer endurance, my body knows what to do when it runs out of carbs, when it runs out of fuel. It knows what to do. It knows how to burn fat. But I figure, why not have as much carbs in my system to get me going as far as I can early on. So just give a little nutrition update. Around 20 miles, I ended up stopping back at the house having some peanut butter crackers. 6 of those in the pack. Belly felt fine, no issues there. My main source of calories is going to be dates stuffed with peanut butter. I believe this is a Grammy Curtis kind of thing. No powdered sugar on the outside. Probably going to miss that a little bit. It won't have the same flavor, but really didn't want the extra sugar. So let's go. I've been running with dates for a little while. I seem to work well, but I haven't done the peanut butter in the inside. And just to clarify, it's crunchy peanut butter. Pretty good. We'll see how it feels in my belly after a few miles when I get running again. But that's what I'm doing nutrition wise. Maybe even stop somewhere. I debated. Part of my run was I just went by Dunkin' Donuts not too long ago. I was considering stopping there, but I really didn't need anything. So probably more of a lunch stop. All right, talk to you there. So, a couple other things that factor in this race. We've been doing a lot of driving lately, so we had just driven down to Connecticut and back. So 12 hours of driving at least. Over the weekend, leading into the weekend, leading into the day of the race, which is on a Sunday. So also not ideal. But this is part of why I do these things, is to challenge myself, see what I can do, what I can't do. Situations come up, can I still perform? So actually happened to be daylight savings time, so I got an extra hour on this day, which is kind of a nice thing. I set my alarm for 4, so in my head it felt like 5. Which is just about when I normally wake up, so it wasn't too extreme. Got up, and my phone hadn't charged the night before. Thought I had lost my phone charger, so I used a different charger. It buzzed when I plugged it in, thought it was charging, didn't charge. So my route plan was I was just going to go out. I was going to head out from Hamden, take some back roads, get into, go through Newburgh, Herman, end up in Bangor. Probably about the time I'm starting to run low on fuel, then I'll be around more stores, gas stations and restaurants or whatever, and then figure out fueling from then on out. Because I was planning on just winging it. I had my running vest from Nathan with the Camelback filled up, so I had like 32 ounces of water, well, not water, of electrolyte water, which I use Ultima. So I've got my pack full. Like I said, I woke up and found out my battery is dead. So like, oh no, what am I gonna do now? Because as much as I want to kind of go out and test myself and get myself out of situations, I didn't know how I was gonna feel at this distance. So I wanted to be able to, in a pinch, I could call D for help. Um, so I needed a full battery, and my plan was to shut my phone off. I told D I'd turn my phone on around 10 o'clock, because I knew it was gonna be cold that morning. So I had to charge my phone. So I start charging my phone, and I go out and I'm doing closer loops here. So I have like a 7 mile loop it's a 7 mile loop, and then there's little offshoots that are around little roads that are nice here and there that ends up being about 10 miles. So I do a 10 mile loop, come back, battery's at like 60%. So I got to do another smaller loop. So I do like a 5 mile loop, come back, it's like 80%. So I'm like, okay, actually shut my phone off there, kept it charging, did one more 5 mile loop or so, came back and just put my phone in the backpack. And at that point, I'm 19 miles in. So about 20 miles in, heading out on my little walkabout. It's kind of crazy to think about. Next time I'm kind of here, probably gonna be a different person. It's gonna be quite the challenge. We'll see how it turns out. Trying to warm up, that's why I got the hood on, everything. Next morning though, feeling pretty good. No issues whatsoever. As far as a plan goes, my plan was steeper hills. I'm gonna walk up and walk down. I've noticed in the past that there's a point, like when I'm just running normal, and for longer distances, there's a point where my knees start bugging me a bit. And it's somewhere probably around 30 miles or so for me now at this point. But the thought is, running down those hills, you get a lot of impact. It's a harder impact. So I figured I'd reduce that. And then the uphills, there's no doubt it tires you out more. You're putting more effort in. And I figured by walking those two, I could get more distance. And we're only talking the steeper hills. So I'm back at the house, and I grab, I decided why not have some fuel. I have a bowl of cereal. I've been running with my Nathan belt at that point with the little water, the smaller containers of water, because I was doing smaller loops. Have my bowl of cereal, write a note to detailer. Instead of 10, I'm going to turn my phone at noon. Grab my backpack. So my backpack has a full bladder. Now that bladder, I've run it before. It hasn't bothered me, but it didn't bother me this time. It's just when you have that bladder full, it's a noticeable weight. I mean, I googled what 32 ounces of water weighs. They said it's only like 2 pounds, which isn't a lot, but man, it felt really heavy to me. And when you're going for 50, when you're going to 60 plus miles, that weight starts to add up. So I head out with my backpack, and I wasn't really thirsty, so I didn't drink because it was so cold. It was cold. We're talking 28 degrees when I start. It probably wasn't till like 10 o'clock-ish where it started to warm up. So it was still below freezing till about 10. So you're not sweating a lot. And so things went well. Just passed third of the way. Not feeling too bad. A couple of nagging fatigue kind of things. No pain yet. Starting to warm up. Kind of wish I'd gone to a vest, but who knows, later tonight I might need to switch him back to his jacket, and vest just wouldn't cut it. So all good right now. Third of the way in. Wish me luck. Actually, about when I'm in Bangor, kind of near, it circled around it. Yeah, I'm in Bangor and it's starting to warm up, so I took off my jacket, packed it in my backpack, and then a little later I take off my shirt and pack it in my backpack. Which this was my first bonehead move of the whole run. Just to kind of show how kind of bad we are at times. So I'm taking off my shirt. My watch was on top of my shirt because I was running with my chest strap, so I was getting my heart rate there. Take it off, put it on my back, pack everything in, and then go for a run. And I'm about a quarter mile up the road and realize I forgot my watch. So I had to circle back and go find my watch. Luckily, I did find it. Everything was fine. But there's an extra half mile I probably ran and didn't even calculate in my run. Another wardrobe change. Don't have many left on my last layer here. Had my first real bonehead moment. Had my watch over the top of my shirt. Took off my shirt, put my watch down, got everything back on, went back for a run. So there's a quarter mile that's not going to be counted on my laps. But at least I went back and found the watch. Freaking out there for a bit, trying to keep my heart rate low. That's not a good way to do that. It's interesting where your mind goes and how dumb you get. Guess I'm dumb to be doing this anyways. Oh, one other cool thing that happened that morning, which was a really cool experience. I'm running and not too far from the house, and I hear what I think is a coyote. I'm like, was that I heard a bark and then the howl, and I was like, is that dog or is that coyote? And I was pondering that for a few seconds, and then I swear hundreds of, like, one side of the street is where that first bark came from. The other side of the road, it sounded like hundreds of dogs of other coyotes answering, and they sound like lots of puppies. There was a mix of a lot of, puppy sounding barks. It was kind of a cool experience. I had debated on years ago. We used to howl with our dog, and I was like, maybe I should howl back. I'm like, there's a lot of them going. Maybe I don't want to call in a whole bunch of coyotes at this moment. So that's kind of cool. So I'm in Bangor. I take off I told you I found my watch. But I've got this wet, so I at this point I still haven't drank a lot of the water, so I still probably have at least half of my water still left, maybe 3/4. And now I've got a jacket packed in there, and I've got my shirt. Both are kind of wet, a little bit heavier, and plus it makes it tight, so you really feel it on your back more. The weight of this pack, I think, is getting to me. I'm 32 miles in. I'm feeling it. Still no pain, just fatigue. Legs tired, calves tired, butt tired. I keep going. And once again, this didn't deteriorate from my running at all. That I'm aware that was quite noticeable to me. But that weight definitely takes away some speed. You definitely notice a little bit over time. I think that wears you down a bit more. So I keep running. I am at around 40 miles. Actually, I think I was at 39 miles, and I hit noon, and it's pretty warm. I mean, for November, November 7th in Maine. I mean, we're talking, it was 50 something degrees, but the sun was out and bright and warm, so it felt more like 60, 70. I get a call. I turn on my phone, and Dee wants me to talk to her. So, and a big part of all of this, which has been a challenge and something I'm always working on, is trying the balance between life responsibilities and this extreme running that I'm doing. And Dee calls me and says, she has some work she wanted to get done around the house. How many nice days we have left? Can I come help her? I'm like, I'll stop everything, no problem. I'm happy to do that, because that really is my priority, is finding that balance and being balanced in my life with my wife and my family. So it was a no-brainer, even though initially you're like, oh, I'm in the middle of this, I want to do this, but within a second you're like, nope, that's not my priority, I have to check myself. So Dee was shopping and she was going to meet me, so I kept running. I got about 2 more miles in. I was just running a parking lot. Figured it was a good place for her to meet up with me, and I'm just running up and down the parking lot, and things are starting to stiffen up, and I'm at 41 miles, and I called Dee to check where she is, and she's still a little bit out. So now things are really starting to feel difficult. This is my first kind of, up to this point, everything felt great. Like there was no issues at all. So I start walking up like one side of the parking lot rows and then run back down. It was a slight grade, so I'd run the slightly down and walk the up. And I'm feeling it. I'm like, man, maybe today's isn't the day. And I know I'm gonna go help D and do some work around the yard. And I'm like thinking to get started and go back out again is gonna be. I don't know if it's in me. I was, that it's funny with these runs. These negative thoughts start building up in your head. You start doubting yourself. So I'm 41 miles in, and things are getting a little dark. Confidence is down. I still can run pretty comfortably. I shouldn't say that. It's uncomfortable at this point. Not painful. Uncomfortable. My feet don't like it. My legs don't like it. I want to be done. I'm going to keep going. See how things turn out. And so I come home with D. D picks me up. We go home. Things feel, you can feel them in the vehicle driving back. Things stiffening up. So we were doing some work around the yard. It probably took about 2 hours of work. And I actually ended up walking like a mile, which I didn't even count my run. And so D and I finish, and I actually had, what did I ate a little bit there. I can't remember what I ate at this moment. And then I had some peanut butter crackers. Like Ritz crackers with peanut butter inside. Just sounded appealing to me, and I wasn't caring what I ate. I just wanted to eat whatever. And I had, some electrolyte drink. So I go back out for my run, and I'm like, this is not going to be good. I was feeling pretty negative. Things were stiff. They weren't horrible. I was still moving around pretty good, but I figured when I start running, this is going to be a pretty awful end to the race. And I probably won't get my distance done. Something I've been working on for a while is my cadence, shortening up quicker, smaller steps, which I know from my Ironman helped me get out of my transition from biking into the run. Just things felt really good. I noticed a similar thing with this. So I go out to run, and it was like immediately things felt smooth. They felt good. Part of my training, I've been doing a lot of 30-mile runs, followed with a 20-mile run the next day. And what we find on those runs, the 20-mile run, it's like the fast twitch muscles aren't there. You're just slow, but it doesn't feel bad. It's just a slow pace. You got no speed, but it's comfortable. Well, that's literally how I describe it. I get out on this, and I'm feeling good. So I had it on the run, and so I'm at, I'm at 42 miles. So I still got 21 miles to go, which is kind of daunting. So I go to do my 7-mile loop was the plan. And I'm thinking, man, and I was going to add in the little loop so it'd be closer to 10. And I'm like, man, if I do this, I get back and then I've still got 10 left to go when I get back to the house. And it's starting to get, I know night's going to come on, so I have my lights with me. So I decided I'm going to add extra distance. I'm going to try to get more of this run done on this loop. That way I get back and I have a smaller loop after that that's more manageable in my head. So I take another road and I get down, and I realized I wasn't really thinking very well because I didn't bring enough fluids for myself to accurately hydrate during this portion of the run. But I'm already out. I'm already committed. I'm past the point, it's going to take me whatever distance to get home. So I have to start rationing my liquid, which I thought this might really, do me in. Ended up not being a problem. I just, kind of planned, okay, I basically felt like I had 3 good swigs left. So I kind of broke up in my head my run by thirds and was like, okay, here's what I'm taking one, here's what I'm taking another, and here's my last swig. And that's pretty much how it worked out. And I don't think it set me back. But for a while there, I was nervous. I'm going to have to call Dee and get her to run me out some liquid, which I really didn't want to do. Ran by a skunk. Scared the living daylights at it. Swore at that skunk. I thought for sure I was getting sprayed. It was literally on the side of the road. I didn't see it till I was literally 2 feet away from it. It jumped down into a culvert. And as it jumped down, that's when I first noticed it and see the white stripe, right? So luckily nothing happened there. Heart rate got a little crazy there. Speaking of heart rate, for the most part, I stayed in zone 2. That's the nice thing about this walking the hills. The heart rate doesn't really get up very much. And towards the end, as I was getting slower and doing a little bit more walking, it was basically, I was kind of almost going by my heart rate. When my heart rate would start to climb and I feel it, I let myself walk for a bit and let it come back down, which I think was a good strategy for this endurance. So I finished this loop and I've got 5 miles left. And I'm like, okay, this is doable. So I stop in the house, refill my water. Dia made spaghetti and meatballs, which I have the best wife ever. Yeah, I didn't want to dive into it there though. I mean, as tempted as I was, I'm like, okay, that might be a little too filling, and plus, that's gonna be my reward when I get done. And how pumped! This wasn't planned, but it was an awesome thing to like come in the house and smell those meatballs and be like, oh, I'm only 5 miles away, basically like an hour, maybe a little bit more at the pace I was running. So I changed into some drier clothes. I was chilled in the house though. I was cold, and I really wasn't able to get warm. Put on some gloves, decided even an extra layer. So I head out. And like I said, I was cold in the house. I was cold outside. I literally, by the time I got to the end of the driveway, I was shivering. I was borderline panic attack at that point. I was freaking out. Like, I'm 5 miles away, but I'm done. Like, this isn't going to happen. I can't. It amazes me. Part of the thing I love and hate, it's a weird thing. Your brain at these distances your body wants you to quit. Your body doesn't want you to keep going. Every excuse pops into your head why you shouldn't be doing this, why you should be doing this. At this point, like, I'm starting to freak out. Like, this isn't worth hypothermia. This isn't worth killing myself. This isn't worth. And I was ready to quit. I wanted to quit. I had actually given in to quitting, but I talked somehow, and I honestly don't even know how or where this even came from. But I'm like, get up the hill, so the hill is probably, I don't know, a little more than a quarter of a mile. Get up the hill, and then we'll just come back. And I'm like, and I even said to myself, if I could get to 60 miles, at least it's a number I can say. 56 was my longest run. I think I've already passed I'm pretty much even my longest run. So I'm like up the hill back. I got my new longest run. If I can go a little bit more, maybe I get to 60. At least it's a number I can say that I'm proud of. But so I get up the hill, and by the top of the hill, I've already started to warm. I've already still started to feel comfortable again. By the time I did a little turn down the road, within a mile, I was already starting to get warm, like almost too warm, where I had to unzip my jacket a little bit. And there's those moments that I think are beneficial to us, to everyone, that like you're ready to quit. Your brain is ready to convince you to quit. Everything makes sense to quit. I know Dee would have been happy if I just stopped earlier and just came in and hung out with her. There's everything pulling at you to quit. It's just, I think Dee even said to me that when I was in the house, she's like, no one's putting a gun to your head to do this. I'm like, I know. And you have to kind of, it's hard when you're asking yourself, why am I doing this in these moments? It's hard to like find that motivation when it's not there. But once you've accomplished that, once you push through it, it's such an addictive feeling. It's like, wow, my brain, I have control over what my thoughts are. I have a control over my emotions. I can do things I didn't think I could do. So these last 5, so my plan was, I'm going to do, once I kind of warmed up, I'm like, I'm going to do 2.5 miles, pop back to the house, 2.5 more miles. But there's a spot kind of at the top of the hill, which ended up being like, it's like a half-mile little loop right at the top of the hill right near here where it's flat. And I was in a groove, and I knew I'm just like, let's just get it done. Let's just keep circling this little loop and get it done. And it felt really good. I'm shocked at how well my body responded, and I finished it. I'm pretty pumped. I like I said, I didn't think that that 2 hour stop in the middle would be good for me, but I think that speaks to my level of fitness now. Um, I think 40 miles running for me at this point isn't a shock to my system. It's pretty doable. For my body to just be like, okay, 40 miles, okay, go back out. Like, I think if I was in, I think most people, that would not be the case, you know? It wouldn't be me that long ago. I mean, we're talking a year ago. If I ran a marathon or when I had, I'm pretty much done in for a week. You know, it takes me a week to get back, and for those first 2 or 3 days, I'm walking pretty stiff, and there's no chance. I mean, I can't even. I almost need to be helped to get into restaurants or walking around. And at this point, to be able to put in 40 miles and feel that good shows you how much I'm improving. At least shows me. Um, Overall, I couldn't be happier with how everything responded. I was debating on trying to do 75 miles. Um, I absolutely had 75 miles in me. My goal was 100. I don't know if that's possible because it's a lot more. I mean, I did 62, and we're talking another 38 miles. I mean, that's a lot more. So it's hard to know what happens at that point. But I definitely had 75 in me. The sheer time commitment of a run like this, I mean, I don't even know, 13 hours or so, um, is quite daunting. So that's more the reason why I didn't go for 75. But being as confident as I was at the end, yeah, I had it in me. It would have been slow, would have been uncomfortable. As far as there was, I would say I didn't experience pain at all, um, which is something, like I said, a little over a year ago, a marathon, I couldn't finish a marathon without pain. Usually in the back of my knees, tendons and stuff. I had a bunch of things I was worrying about as I'm running, which happens if you're a runner, you know about that. You know, it's like, it's my Achilles feeling something. Oh, am I going to regret that? Um, I didn't feel any pain. Quite a bit of discomfort, though. The bottoms of my foot from all the impacts, 127,000 steps. I mean, it's a silly number. My feet were tired of landing. There was a point where it got, like the last 5 miles, that kind of went away, though. Maybe even a little bit before that wasn't an issue. But for a while there, it felt like it was getting worse and worse, and then it just kind of just dissipated. My I would say today I noticed it mostly in kind of my hips. My hips are definitely tired. My hips and glutes are definitely tired. My calves, I mean, I can feel that I did something, but it's not bad. Um, yeah, I'm overall my body responded better than I could have expected. I am quite proud of myself for being able to do this distance. Um, it's making me feel that 100's more and more possible. But it is interesting how down I was on myself in 40. Um, these are definitely a mental challenge. And we'll see. Overall, though, I gotta say, I mean, I hear lots of people say, you know, you keep running like this, you're gonna blow out your knees. You're not gonna be able to walk. You're gonna have back problems. You're gonna have, you know, all this stuff. And I just feel like I'm getting better. Like without a doubt, my knees are the strongest they've ever been. My ankles are the strongest they've ever been. My body feels better than it ever has, and I'm able to do stuff I wasn't able to do before. So I don't see that, and I'm gonna keep trying. 100's a goal, and I think it's getting closer and closer. I believe next week, JT is going to be attempting the same distance. We'll see how that goes for him. I'm very interested in hearing from him. Him and I are going to have to get back together again and do another podcast. So until then, until next time, thank you all for joining me and have a great day.